Welcome into the Heat Report, where we have a lot to talk about. Miami dodged a bullet. We'll describe what that bullet actually was. Plus, Olivier-Maxence Prosper. We talked about trading for him last week. Well, there's an interesting update on his availability. We'll talk about that. I'm Nick Roloff. But let's get right into the bullet dodge for Miami. It was almost scary surrounding Nikola Jovic because in his Eurobasket game on Monday, September 1st, Labor Day, he left at halftime or just before the half with a hand injury. If you are remembering, he missed basically the final 2.5 months of the season with a wrist fracture a year ago. So I hear hand injury, and I get very concerned about Nikola Jovic. But it seems like everything's fine. We'll go through the full timeline of events. But make sure you are subscribed and have your notifications turned on. 12.9% of you have your notifications turned on. We're trying to get that number to 13%. Listen, over the last month, 48.5% of our viewers are returning regulars. So shout out to the regulars still watching. But make sure you have those notifications turned on so you don't miss a video we put out. But I was scared when I saw the reports coming out of Eurobasket that Jovic left the game in the first half with a hand injury. Because, man, oh man, if he got unlucky with a wrist/hand injury once again, which kept him out for a massive time, that would just be so detrimental. But Nikola Jovic described after the game that it was just a cut. And he did actually return to play a little bit in the second half. Not a ton because Serbia was taking Czech Republic to school. It wasn't very much of a competitive game. But Jovic was asked about the injury/cut following the game, and he told reporters at Eurobasket, that's nothing special, a small cut. I hope to be all right. Let's just stay as healthy as possible. Let's be as many of us as possible, and everything will be fine for sure. Well, this is absolutely huge for Miami because to me, and I made a whole video about Nikola Jovic, and I feel like we've talked a ton about Nikola over the past couple of weeks, but it's because he is the X factor for this Heat basketball team this season. I firmly believe that. I made a full video on it. Obviously, Jovic is entering the final year of his rookie contract where he's a restricted free agent following this season. But if he is able to elevate his play and really jump up in terms of hierarchy of NBA players, the Heat that's the quickest way for them to go from middle of the pack to contending in the Eastern Conference. And Jovic has looked extremely good in Eurobasket so far for Serbia, averaging about 12 points, 5 boards, about 5 assists as well, shooting incredibly efficient from the field. He's working really well in transition. He's working really well off of some other Serbian players like Filip Petrovic and Nikola Jokic. This is a player that is starting to find his role on Serbia, which is only going to help him bring himself to be a more confident player in the NBA with the Miami Heat. Just stay healthy, Nico. I'm begging you, not only for the rest of this offseason, but this upcoming year as well. Jovic has only played 46 games in each of the last 2 seasons and basically had a redshirt year as a rookie in the NBA, spending that entire season in the G League. So he really hasn't been able to put a full season together in the NBA. He's still super young, and I'm hoping that he can finally put together a 60, 65 game season for the Miami Heat to where he is a very pivotal and integral part of the organization in the future years to come. And I want to send the good vibes to Nikola Jovic. So spam his jersey number in the comments, that being numero cinco. You know, some Spanish for you on a Tuesday afternoon. Don't say we don't bring it all here at the Heat Report. But coming up here in just a second, we're going to talk about signing Olivier-Maxence Prosper, the player that was waived by the Dallas Mavericks. But I did also want to mention some positivity in Eurobasket on other players because we talked about how Larsson has been playing really well for Sweden. But we have not really mentioned how well Simone Fontecchio has looked for Italy. He had a very tough first game. There's no defending that. But Fontecchio had an absolute monstrous game where he scored over 30 points just a couple days ago. So Fontecchio starting to put things together for Italy. Paul Larsson, by the way, averaging about 21 points per game in Eurobasket for Sweden, that's more than Nikola Jovic. I know different play style. Serbia has been winning games big, but it just shows how Larsson is really putting his country on his back, as I do believe he is the best player currently playing for Team Sweden. But it also just shows how deep this Heat team can be this season if they roll with this starting five, which I think is a very capable starting five. I think it's top 6 starting five in the Eastern Conference. But having Davion Mitchell, having Nikola Jovic, having Drew Smith, Paul Larsson, Fontecchio, Jaquez, like that is a deep team that can have a lot of players come in, come out, play the 2, play the 3, even handle the ball a little bit, small ball 4. I'm very excited about the interchanging parts that Erik Spoelstra has at his disposal. This might be one of the most versatile teams that he has coached in a long time. I feel optimistic about this season as of September 2nd. We'll see how things go the rest of the month as training camp begins at the end of the month, which is crazy to even say. But this feels like a team that can surprise some people in the East this year. More to come here, but this episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, and you and I make daily decisions, and if you make the right decisions with PrizePicks, you can turn that into some real money. And my excitement for basketball is at an all-time high, but where football is on the horizon, I'm excited for that as well. And it's good to be right, like I was this past weekend in college football, where I had a correct 3-player entry on Haynes King less than passing yards, less than Arch Manning passing touchdowns, and more than Deshaun Bishop rushing yards. It's so simple to play. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. If you get your picks right, you could cash in. They put their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. PrizePicks offers Venmo, Apple Pay, MasterCard, and more for quick and easy deposits in your football this season, your account. Here is my entry for the first week of football. More than Dak Prescott, take advantage of that discounted stat total. More than Joe Flacco passing yards, as well as more than on Demario Douglas receiving yards. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That is code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. It is good to be right. Let's move over to some rumors on today's show, where it goes to Olivier-Maxence Prosper. Last week, we talked about how I think the Heat would be a smart trade idea for them, considering Omax, a former first-round pick, was on the trade block. The Dallas Mavericks could not find a trade partner last week, and they exercised their right to waive and stretch Omax to make roster room for Dante Exum, who they really wanted to sign in free agency. But this now means Olivier-Maxence Prosper is a pure NBA free agent. This is a player that just 2 years ago was drafted in the first round, 24th overall to be exact. The same draft as Jaime Jaquez Jr., and I labeled Omax as a player that I thought Miami would really be interested in, and I would like to add to this organization. He was my 21st player on my big board in that draft. I actually had him above Jaime Jaquez Jr. on my big board. I compared Omax to a DeAndre Hunter type, the way he's able to defend and shoot the 3, at least what he showed at Marquette. He has not been able to find his stride offensively in the league to this point. The numbers are pretty rough to look at, but I still believe that in the right developmental system, you could really see his offensive game blossom to a point where he is a serviceable rotation player. You do not teach 6'7" with a 7'1" wingspan. You can't teach it. That is something you were born with in your genetics. I mean, simply put. And with his athleticism, his ability to move side to side and defend, there is no question that he can still defend in the NBA, folks. This is a guy that I think would be worth Miami taking a flyer on, since he is now available to sign in free agency. There's no question of having to make a trade and make salary work. No, we could just sign the player right now. And before I give you some more information, should the Heat sign Omax? Type S for sign, type P for pass. Take Pat Riley's spot, be the GM of the Miami Heat. Would you sign this guy? Obviously, I am, and I'm trusting this developmental system, man. You got the best out of Caleb Martin. You got the best out of Max Strus, the best out of Duncan Robinson, the best out of Gabe Vincent, and heck, the best out of Kendrick Nunn for a year. You want me to believe that you can't try to reform a first-round pick from a couple years ago that has the right measurables as well as mindset. Marquette guy, works hard, plays hard defensively. Like, that's a player that I would like to try to mold and shape into a very, very valuable rotation guy. And the part that makes this so easy for Miami, in my opinion, is that he is eligible for a two-way contract. Now, obviously, if a different NBA team offers Omax a standard contract, he's going to take that. But Miami can offer him a two-way right now. They have an open two-way spot. You have to have at least under 4 years of NBA experience, as well as some other CBA rules, which is why Drew Smith was not eligible for a two-way. But Miami has an open contract there. You're allowed 3 two-way guys. Remember, 15 standard, 3 two-ways for the regular season. Miami has only used 2 of those two-way contract slots for Vlad Golden and Myron Gardner. The spot remains open for a player that maybe balls out on an Exhibit 10 contract like Ethan Thompson, to make an example of it, in the training camp and preseason. But Omax is a guy, I would sign him to a two-way right now, assuming that he would be able to hold that spot. There isn't a person right now that is worth signing a two-way more than Omax, because he's got talent, he's got upside, he's got the mentals, and there is no downside for the Miami Heat whatsoever. If someone else offers them a standard contract, all right, you chalk it up. Can't compete with that offer right now because you're not signing Omax to go into the luxury tax. But with a two-way spot open and him being eligible for that, there is no reason why Miami should not add him to this roster right now. And if the Heat do make a move to the roster, we will have you covered. Subscribe and join the family here at the Heat Report today. And I'll see you tomorrow with another video. Go Heat.